Namaste, Your Royal Highness. I remember 10 years ago I was here for the World Sanskrit Congress 2005 in Bangkok, and you graced the occasion, inaugurated and sat through the whole 3 days, and I'm so honored to be here again after 10 years. The inaugural session at that time had 3 of us speakers. We had Murli Manohar Joshi ji, then myself, and Professor Gombrich from Oxford. And a lot of water has flown down the Ganga since then, and it's a good time to see how we are today, how we have advanced compared to where we were. I would like to first tell you that my area of study in Sanskrit has been focused on how insiders and outsiders see the tradition differently, in which ways they are seeing it the same, in which ways they complement, and in which ways they disagree and even have conflicting ideas. So I made a talk, the plenary, the inaugural talk there, which was published in the journal here in the Sanskrit University, the Center for Sanskrit Studies, in their Sanskrit journal. And that discussion about insiders and outsiders, I've continued researching, and my book on that subject is ready with the publisher and will be out in September. So I'll tell you a little bit about it, because this is 10 years since I started this thinking about this topic right here for the World Congress in Thailand. And so now that 10 years are over, that book is ready. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. The idea of insider and outsider is not ethnic or national. It has to do with drishti, perspective, gaze. You can have the insider gaze, insider perspective, or the outsider perspective. And many of my Western friends are insiders in terms of their perspective. On the other hand, a very large number of Indians have the outsider perspective when it comes to Sanskrit and Sanskriti, because they're very westernized, very secularized, and do not have the same insider view that we have here. The insider view of Sanskrit sees it as more than just a language, but actually the grammar of a civilization, the DNA of the Sanskriti. And the insider sees it as a living tradition, living through the yagnas, through the mantras we use in meditation, through the words which are non-translatable, that are part of our thought process. These non-translatable Sanskrit words contain a lot of metaphysics. They contain a lot of practices, sacred practices that we have. So they have Shraddha, which is itself a non-translatable, which the outsiders do not share. The insiders see it as a very sacred tradition, a very extraordinary tradition. They see it as the meta-language for vernaculars, the meta-language which supports and has a two-way interaction with all kinds of vernaculars, not only in South Asia but also in Southeast Asia. They see it as vibrations, the Sanskrit vibrations, which are non-translatable because they are vibrations. They are not just conceptual ideas that you can replace with another language. They see Kavya, Natya, as an extension of Sanskrit itself, because it's Sanskrit being enacted, the Sanskrit metaphysics being enacted. Things like Shastra, which are taking the real patterns of Sanskrit thought and putting them into different domains of knowledge, from architecture to medicine to, whatever, mathematics and so on. They're all based on Sanskrit basic assumptions. So the insiders are the insiders also are convinced that Sanskrit has its own systems of interpretation. So when you interpret Sanskrit, there are many theories, many alternative views, You can compete, disagree, argue, come up with your own interpretation, but there are certain principles of interpretation that are within the system itself.